This is the Jpeg2RAW podcast. I'm Mike Howard. I'm broadcasting from the basement of Nav Studios here in sunny and hot Atlanta. Jpeg2RAW is a photography podcast for the amateur photographer. You can find us on the web at www.navstudios.com, and you can contact the show by emailing us at podcast@navstudios.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Flickr, and Twitter by searching for Jpeg2RAW, or just follow the links on our website. All right, it's 8 o'clock, so let's go ahead and get started. And if your video comes back, we'll show that. If not, we'll just show some other things. So this is show number 17 of Jpeg2RAW, and tonight we have special guests, Ashlee, Nicole, Griffith again. How you doing, Ashlee?
Hello. Hi, everyone.
This is Ashlee's second time on the show. We don't have Tim tonight. Tim is off doing something with his family, I believe. He had a family event that he had to go to, so it's just going to be Ashlee and I. But I think we have a lot of good things to talk about. Before we get into your stuff, I want to talk a little bit about some of my things. And that is, this weekend, my son had his first high school swim team meet, first swim meet. And, you know, if you've ever shot any sports, you know, like soccer or something like that that's outside, that's not too bad, because that's, you know, outside you got generally got better lighting. But indoor sports like maybe basketball, girls competitive cheerleading, gymnastics, and in this case swimming, you very often are inside a gym where the lighting is absolutely horrible. Not a roller derby, Andy, saying not only is the quality of light, or quantity, let's say, the quantity of light bad, but the quality, I keep getting that mixed up. Quality and quantity is really bad. So in this gym, they only had lights on the two sides of the gym, which were pointed up into a white ceiling, and then the white ceiling kind of bounced some of the light down. So on the edges of the gym, I was getting somewhere around 1/2000th of a second at ISO 1600. Sometimes even higher than that, depending on where I was looking. And then in the center of the gym, I was getting 1/50th of a second, 1/50 of a second at ISO 1600. So it was a humongous difference there. And that was at f2.8, by the way. That's a humongous difference from side to side, from side to middle. And it made it very difficult because, you know, the kids, of course, are swimming in the middle of the pool, and you're just really not going to get much action shots there at all because of the horrible lighting. But, you know, one of the things I was looking at, the person who took the photos last year there, and because this is the gym that they compete in every year, and I said, you know, I've never shot swimming, so I want to get some ideas on what they took and what the challenges were for that gym. And you're looking at some of the photos from last year that they took. Whoops, I got some ad. And if you see in these, you can see that it didn't look quite this bad in real life, but you did notice a really bad green tint to everything because of the way the lights were or whatever. And you know, that green tint can be compensated by using a gray card. And I know I've talked about it on the show before, using a gray card. Have you ever used a gray card, Ashlee? I'm going to show you in chat.
Yes, I have.
So I carry one in my bag at all times. I don't know if y'all can see it a little bit there. Yeah, I carry one in my bag at all times. And the first thing I did when I got in there was to set it on the floor. And I brought two cameras also. I brought my Nikon D2X and my Nikon D2H. And I had a 70-200 lens on the 2H and a new lens I just got, the 35 millimeter 1.8 on my D2X. So the first thing I did is I set down this gray card and I set my white balance with both cameras on that gray card. And that made a humongous difference. If you looked at the images I was showing earlier compared to these, the difference, the biggest difference is that white balance. So I don't know what camera they used last year or whatever, but even a point and shoot has the ability, a lot of point and shoots have the ability to set white balance off of something like a gray card. So that alone would have made these images from last year quite a bit better. You know, the one thing that this person was still good at is they generally had a good eye for what to take pictures of. which is the harder thing to teach. Some of the technical stuff you can overcome by just knowing a little bit more. They also must have used a flash because if you can't probably see it in chat that well, but along the edges of the body, you can see the blur. You see that, Ashley?
Yes.
And that's because the shutter speed was probably not high enough to stop the action, and then the next photo doesn't want to come up, and then and then the flash wasn't strong enough to overcome the natural light and create, stop the action. So, that, and then I'll show you a little bit here of what happens whenever you set the white balance. You can see in some of these that the white balance is much better in these. Now, you're looking at it in a stream, and they will be degraded both in the colors will be degraded somewhat, and the sharpness will be degraded. So you're not getting a true thing there. But even though I set the white balance and all that, I still had the challenge. Like in this image, you can see in the back. See, that's where the lights were. You see that, Ashley?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see where they were.
It was very difficult to shoot. Even like in this case, if I just did the matrix metering, which I always use matrix metering in most of my landscape shooting, instead of manual. I know everybody who comes on the show seems to use manual except for me, but in manual in this environment would have been, for me at least, would have been a disaster because the lighting changed so much from one area to the next. But in matrix metering, what happened here was it would try and expose properly these lights, and then these kids would be more of a silhouette. So I switched to I think center weighted, and then added a third of a stop exposure to that. And that seemed to work fairly well in getting a decent exposure. And in this image, what I also did, and do you use Lightroom, Ashley?
Yes, I do. I use Lightroom a lot.
Okay, so I took somewhere between 500 and 600 photos. And I was able to narrow this down fairly quickly to, I think, 166 or something like that. And then go through the 166, and I did some corrections. Now, if I remember right, you shoot with a D700?
Yes, you're correct.
Which is a generation ahead of my cameras. So, the D700 is pretty good with noise.
It is.
My D2X and D2H are not nearly as good. So, the Lightroom does do fairly good with reducing some of the noise. But the key is to not underexpose by much in these. The other thing I use, and I hadn't used this a lot before then, but the graduated filter in Lightroom, and I drag that down so those lights that are in the background, in Lightroom how you can have it reveal the overexposed, what do you call it, the blown out areas?
Yes.
I was able to recover all that. While it looks like it's really blown out, it really, according to Lightroom, none of it's blown out. I was able to drag the graduated filter down and bring that exposure down a little bit, and then use the recovery slider, so it's not quite as bad as it really looked at first. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just stopped in this image. There's nothing special about this image. But I think I did like this one. So these kids, these are all high school kids, but these kids would come up to the wall here, and this is where it told them what heats they were in. What match they're going to be in. And they would write it down on their hands or arms or whatever else, so they can remember where they're at. And this girl, I don't know, I like watching the kids as they come up to it. But in the next one, I added a little bit of vignette. What happened there? A little bit of vignette around the edges to draw you in a little bit more on her. I did that on a couple of them, but you know what else I did to a lot of these? And I'm going to be interested to see if the kids notice. Let me find one that has an example. Now you will never know because you didn't see the original. And you can't see this that well either. There you go. What else I did for some of these kids, like this guy here, is I removed a bunch of their pimples.
They're gonna love you.
I do not it's been a while since I've been in high school, longer than it has been for you. I do not remember having that many pimples back then. And but maybe maybe I did. Not as many photos of me. But yes, I went through, and this guy's. Yeah, I guess it's a natural thing for a teenager. Um, he had quite a few, and a number of other kids had quite a few. But I removed them. I didn't remove any moles or anything like that because that's more of a part of you. And I would want them to specifically say something to me. But I would imagine that they can't get too mad at me for removing pimples, don't you think?
Right. They shouldn't.
Yeah. I said something.
They'll love you. They'll be like, "Oh, you cleared up my skin. Awesome."
Yeah, there's I was looking for this one girl. I would never find her. But at that age, there's quite a few attractive people there, and then the pimples just are a natural thing, and they kind of distract from it. And I thought I would help them out a little bit. So anyway, it was a lot of fun, and I'll probably, other than the fact that I was in this hot, humid gym for, let's see, 6.5 hours with no place to sit and with wet kids running all around me. And really, I was limited to where I could go. If I get to some of these, I want to show you a diving one. Yeah, so like this. So like this is the only angle I can get on a diver. So you'll see coming up in a second. And look what's right above his head. Those stupid lights. Do you see that yet?
Not yet.
In the stream, it should be coming up. You'll see a kid standing on a board, and right above his head is the lights. You still don't see it? Y'all see it out in chat?
There it is.
Wow, that was a big delay. But anyway, right behind them is these lights. So the angle was just it was incredibly difficult to get anything. So I gave up in trying to get them actually diving in the water. And I just took images when they were getting ready, like in this shot where they were standing there getting ready. And I think I went to spot metering on this one to try and spot meter them better and not worry about that big light behind it, just let it blow out. But it was very difficult. But a lot of fun. A lot of fun. The kids are probably wondering, who is this creepy old dude taking photos of me? So,
It looks like you got a lot of photos, and it looks like you had a lot of fun with it.
I
Definitely.
did. Hopefully.
It's like a lot.
The thing with a teenage son like my son is, I don't think he didn't want to interact with me. He was with his team. He's doing his own thing. So I did my best to just stay off to the side, take my photos, and not interact with him. I did see one time where it looked like he was running out of water, so I kind of gave him a symbol like, I got some water if you need some water. He just kind of put his hand down like, no, Dad, I'm all right. But
He's
just
like, "Dad, seriously, leave me alone."
Yeah, did in a way where nobody would notice. And so I'm wondering, well, do all these other kids just think I'm some kind of a creep over here taking photos? But
He's a creeper.
yeah, hopefully after they got to school on Monday, and they talked to my son and they saw some of these photos, that then they go, okay, now I understand who it is, and maybe when I take when they see that taking some of the pimples out, they will be ecstatic about that too, and open up a little bit more to me. I know there's a couple of girls when I was taking their photo, they look like, dude, you already got pictures of me. What are you doing? And I didn't want to break it to them, but I really had trouble telling a lot of them apart. So I had no idea. Have I taken your photo before? I don't know. I'm just taking as many photos as I can, and hopefully I will get some of everybody by the time this is over.
Yeah.
I did like this. There's one interaction coming up. So let's see if I can get it. This girl here, they help each other. This was really cool. They help each other put their hats on because I guess they fit pretty tight. So this girl here, whatever her name is helping the other one put her hat on. Well, as she's doing it, this one grabs the edge with her mouth of the hat and starts making fart sounds with it. And it was just hilarious to watch them because, the next scene, they're all laughing and everything and having a good time.
It's funny that you're showing these because I used to swim in high school. That's
Did you?
something that you probably didn't know. But
I
yeah, I was a swimmer in high school, and the pools that we had are all outside. Like, none of them are indoor pools. I don't think there's even an indoor pool here in Fort Myers. I think they're all outdoor. So, like, seeing these pictures, it's like you definitely were able to capture a lot better than I think if you were fully outside
yeah,
during that swim meet. It
especially if it's
seems
at
like
night.
the walls just were able to balance a lot for you. Even though in some areas it might have been blown out or whatever,
Mhm.
it just looks like the walls around and stuff and just made everything look a lot softer and a lot more natural because the pictures from our swim meets look nothing like this. Like they're very contrasty and maybe it could be the way you edit them too, but they just look ours always looked extremely bright. Like they don't look like these. They look very well put together and stuff.
Well, oh, thank you. And you know, another point with the lady or lady, I said lady, but it could have been a guy last year too. Is this is one of those areas where I would, you know, I'm always a raw shooter, but this is one where I'd advise, you know, hey, it's really a good idea. If you don't normally shoot raw, this is a really good time to start. Because you know, while they didn't set the white balance correctly in the last year photos, if you shot in raw, you could have corrected a lot of that later on. Now, some of the ghosting and stuff, you wouldn't have been able to correct that, but the green oak cast, you could correct that. Because even though I white balanced off a gray card, different areas of the gem had slightly different colors, and I'm sure I didn't get it perfect. You know, I think somebody was pointing out before they look a little, some of them look a little bit off,
Hmm.
and some of them maybe. It's hard to tell in the stream here whether that's the stream or whether that is the true image. You know, quality off, but some of them are off, and also the fact that they're at ISO 1600 on at least the generation of cameras I'm using, that does deteriorate some of the image there too. But you know, you're not in this case. You're not looking for you know, Ashlee quality photos. You're looking more for, you know, parent of a son, parent of a swimmer quality photos, if you know what I mean. So speaking of Ashlee, let's go into some of what Ashlee's doing. And I have your regular site up here, but I you know, since we've talked to you last, I wanted to catch up on what you've been up to.
All right.
And I think is the thing you want to talk about maybe this? Well, it happens really fast for me, but it takes a little bit for you to see it.
Let's see. I'm kind of curious on what you want to talk about. Oh! Yes, we can definitely talk about that sweet little boy.
Oh, in the blog, the whole thing in general, not just particularly the boy, but
Oh,
your whole thing and what you're doing here.
okay. Well, well, lately I have been doing a lot more of family um, types, photography type stuff. And um, as some of you might know, some of you might not know, I definitely specialize in weddings and portraits. Um, I'm not really good at the whole newborn thing. I have tried it and I'm trying to get better at it and with kids, but I sometimes have a hard time with patience and I'm more of a like, let's get it done type of person. So I'm definitely trying to learn about the whole like being patient with the little ones and kind of getting more of that angelic type of photography because I love kids and I love being able to work with kids. But I get featured a lot on, blog sites that feature weddings and engagements and stuff like that. And some of them are like Ruffled Blog, Southern Wedding Magazine, Martha Stewart's wedding site,
You've been
a
on
whole
Martha
bunch of
Stewart's.
places.
You
Like
you've been
the
on Martha Stewart's
Knot.
wedding site.
Yeah, they all have wedding sites and they're in a style of a blog and they
Okay.
like feature photographers and do-it-yourself ideas, and they just feature everything and anything to help it make it easier for a viewer or a reader to plan their wedding and stuff. And now that everything is so tech savvy these days, they have it all on the internet and you can get featured on them. So anyone who does weddings, you should definitely seek out those places because you're going to get so many clients and so many referrals from that. So I would definitely check those out. You can always message me or ask me after the show what those places are. Again, I'll definitely help you get in contact with them. So talking about Just Adore, that's what you can see right now. Me and a fellow writer of mine and also a fellow friend started this blog. It's based just like all the other sites, for weddings and engagements, but we only feature photographers or vendors that specialize in maternity, newborn, and family lifestyle photography. And the reason we started this is because I did a maternity shoot that I was extremely proud of. I was so ecstatic after the shoot, and I was so excited about editing the pictures. I wanted them to be posted and shared with everyone, and I researched to try and find a blog site like all the other ones that I submit to, and I couldn't find one. I was so upset. I could not find a site that I could submit these maternity pictures to. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I can't believe that this is not happening. And there's nothing like that. So we created one. We started it in October, and it has just bloomed. It has blossomed, and we have about 50 photographers right now a part of it, which is amazing for it being only open and running for about a month now. And we have over 25 vendors who make hats, props, backdrops, all sorts of things to help you have such an amazing photo shoot. And we host contests. We just got done doing a contest for, for some actions, some Photoshop actions. Whoever won this amazing package of these actions to help with their editing and to help with their newborn photography. And we have another contest going on right now called our Fall Photo Contest. And the contest is you submit your favorite fall photo. It could be from this year or like 5 years from now, because we know not everyone has been able to experience fall consecutively, like myself. So we have a fall photo contest going on right now, and you submit your favorite photo and you can win amazing prizes by this company called Devoted Knits, and they make the most beautiful hats I have ever seen for little babies.
Now, is the Devoted Knits, is that, are they, how are you interacting with them? Have you just gone to them and asked them to donate them, or how's that working?
Well, they're 100% donated. All of the stuff that we get for the contest are 100% donated, and they donate them expecting to, in return, get pictures of those items. A lot of the items that they donate are new things to their company, so they thrive off of getting pictures from the clients so they can showcase the items a lot better. Like right now, we're actually viewing, this hat was actually made by Devoted Knits. And a photographer won that hat, that particular hat, and took some pictures and sent them to Devoted Knits. And now she has the pictures where she can have them featured on our blog or put them on her site or put them on her Facebook. And it's just a better way for people to see what actually the hat does for a picture compared to her just like laying it down on the ground and taking a picture and trying to sell it that way. It actually really helps the vendors because people can see how people are using their items.
Oh, so you're saying that the vendor would have just normally tried to sell this just the hat by itself without the baby there,
Yeah,
or maybe
well,
not as a creative.
the vendor is not a photographer. The vendor
Okay.
just makes the props.
Okay.
Um, she just knits. She's just knit. She's been born into knitting. Her whole family has knit, and now she knits and she makes these amazing hats and sells them on Etsy through Facebook. And she sells them to photographers and to also mothers who are having children and want to have the hats for pictures and stuff. But she mainly sells to photographers. A lot of photographers will contact her and will use the products that they purchase on upcoming photo shoots, or they'll keep them in their kit. They'll build a kit and will have all of these options. So when they do book a newborn shoot, they have multiple options and multiple fun ways to photograph the babies.
Yeah. So now going back, you said something about giving away a bunch of Photoshop actions. Is that actions that is that Photoshop, or is that like, Photoshop
No,
has actions?
it's in Photoshop.
Okay.
Photoshop, the in Lightroom they're presets. That's what
Right.
it's called, and in Photoshop they're called actions. But they're basically the same thing, where you load them in, and then you have an image, and you can just have the action go on top of the image, and then you're done editing that photo. Unless you want to tweak the action, you can actually tweak it and change a couple of things if it's not 100% correct, just like in Lightroom.
Yeah, and are these actions that you wrote yourself, or is these actions somebody
No,
donated?
these actions were actually provided by a company called DTP Actions and Design, and DTP actually stands for Desiree Todd Photography, and she's actually a photographer that has decided to share the way she edits her photos and to sell them. She sells them, but she donated a couple packages of her actions for a contest.
Okay. So so again with just a door, how do you like, let's say this person on here, or I was looking for somebody else, somebody I actually knew that was a featured person at one point. I don't see them yet. Maybe it's been a while. Um, because you got this is so active, you got so much going on. But how do you pick the person to feature on here?
Well, we get lots of submissions in like each day. And the way it works is we also an assistant editor, and his job is he will go through the emails, and based on when you submitted, it's and making sure that it's something that we would submit, because we do have to keep the integrity of the site. We do kind of have rules and restrictions. Like, we don't do any of the boudoir style of a maternity session, and we don't do anything that's too out there. Like, we want to keep it more fun and more vibrant, and that's just the way that we have based the company and based off of our personal views and stuff with photography.
Right.
But I am actually the only photographer a part of the group. One is actually, she went to school for journalism, and she is our writer, and another one is actually in sales and marketing. So he is definitely the person that markets everything for us, and I am the editor. I'm the one that put the site together. I'm the one that puts together each feature, and it's kind of come together like really nicely.
Yeah, that helps when you have people helping. The writing is one thing I am horrible at. I hate doing. My day job is as an accountant, where I'm usually working in spreadsheets and that kind of stuff, and I hate when I have to go into Word. So the writing is the bad part for me, but it is really it's a critical thing for getting traffic to the site and for making a site interesting. So it's good that you have somebody who's good at it. And I
Yeah.
found the person I was looking for.
She's amazing. Like everyone, the way that they submit, there's actually a tab on the site and it says submit a session. And on there it gives you guidelines. It's not like just an open thing. Like there are guidelines where um you have to tell us about the shoot, tell us a little bit about the baby that's in the photograph and the family, or the parents if it's a maternity session, and you kind of just share like little fun facts, about the shoot. Was the weather expected, or was it a rainy day and you had to work around the weather? Like we really want to write about the shoot and how the photographer was able to, capture these gorgeous photos in that type of circumstance. And we really want to showcase the photographer in their fullest. We want to have enough information about them and their company and what they stand for and what they offer. So when we do feature their work, whether it be for the first time or multiple times, because it's not just a one-time thing. We actually have photographers that will submit a session once a week, and they're expected to be on there like once a week and stuff, which is amazing because we would love to have them on there, once a week or as many times as they would like to be on there. And so it is a little bit hard when we get a lot of submissions in and hard to pick who's going to go first. But we do it all based on when it was actually submitted. We don't pick and choose our favorites and we're like, okay, we're going to put this in the beginning of the week and this later in the week. No, we do it all based on when it was actually given to us. And then that's when we will submit it. And then normally the turnaround time from when you submit your session to when it's actually featured on the site is about a week or two.
Okay. So, do you have a limit to how many you're trying to do a day or a week, or is it?
Well, right now we're only doing one a day.
Okay.
We only do one a day, and that is just more out of like respect to the person who has submitted. I mean, we want them to be able to see it, and we want other people to be able to read it. And we feel if we had like 2 or 3 a day, it would kind of almost neglect them and trying to showcase them. Like someone might miss it or not see it, and we really want to be able to showcase them for the day.
People have a tendency. Go ahead.
But we also have like do-it-yourself ideas where there's none up there right now, but we are going to be starting do-it-yourself ideas, and we want to get those from other photographers. Like maybe they found like a cool way to create something, or even from the vendors if they want to share some tips on how to knit or some tips on how to create things on your own and stuff. So we want it to be a very hands-on type of interactive site, so everyone who visits can get something out of it.
Right. Yeah, and I was going to say that by having one a day, it allows that person to stay at the top for a while on your post, because otherwise, if you posted 10 a day, they'd just be pushed. The first one would be pushed down, and people have a tendency to only look at the top of a page and not scroll down too much.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good thing that you you keep the person there for at least a day.
Yeah.
Now,
and we feature one a day, and we only do it 6 days a week. We actually have decided that we won't feature anything on Sundays, that we are teaching, or we're not teaching, but we're having family day on Sunday. I mean, I don't hardly do any business with my photography on Sundays, because I think it should be a family day. Like you should be able to have time with your family, and since we're such a family site, and like it just seems natural to have family day and stuff. But we will do like little promotions like on Facebook and stuff. And another thing is on our Facebook page, we also, if a vendor is having like one of our vendors that has been featured, if they're doing like a contest or a freebie Friday, that's a very popular thing where they'll give out a gift for free on Friday, and you just have to submit, and then they pick someone at the end of the day, and we'll post that on our page to share it with everyone. So they have a lot of people coming in and stuff. So
And this is a way for somebody who is photographer that wants to get more exposure is to go to your
yes,
to
that's
submit.
exactly what it's for. Is it's another way that they can have their stuff, because with me, the reason I started this is I started submitting my weddings to sites and stuff, and I didn't think that I get chosen and I would be featured and I would have my work on somebody else's site and stuff. I didn't think that was going to happen at all, but it did. And when it happened, I was just so excited that I started sharing, like, oh my gosh, go visit this site, check out my work, it's on their site, this is so cool. And my clients were just like amazed. They're just like, congratulations, that's so awesome, you're finally getting recognized for your work. And that's what we want this to be. We want it to be a place where their clients can see that their work is being recognized somewhere else other than their site.
Now,
Because when clients see that, they're going to start to appreciate your work more than they did before. They're going to be like, wow, somebody else thinks you're amazing at what you do, and they want to feature you on a whole different site. And it's just amazing to see the the feedback that the people who submit have. Like, they just are so grateful for it and so thankful.
yeah.
And there's even been people who I know, and they ask me, what's this Just Adore blog site all about? Like, what's that all about? And I'm like, well, it's a place where you can be featured. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, that is so awesome. I cannot believe I didn't think of that. And I'm like, see, it's something that everyone maybe thought about but never went through with it. And with me, I was like, I have to do this. I have to go through with this because I want it. I just don't want it for other people. Like, I want it too. Like, I want to be able to be featured on there. And so,
So I have several questions, and
sure.
one of them is I know you were just a very giving, nice person, but other than you being featured on here, are you what is in it for you? What are you getting out of this? Do you put are you going to put ads or anything on here? Because I don't mean that in a negative way. It kind of came out negative. Like in my case, with my site, if you're looking here at the live stream right now, I've added an ad right below the chat window, and I do have a link up there. I think it says donations, but if you ever go and look at that, it's saying I'm not taking donations. That what I'd rather people do is just click on one of those ads, and not because I want this thing to make money, but because it costs money to run this stuff. And I would love for it to someday help these ads. I don't. If you click just by clicking on it, by the way. So if y'all wanted to try it right now, you could. But just by clicking on it, I get a little bit of money to help offset some of the costs. And I'm looking here at your site, and I don't see. I see like Kathleen Bowie and Phillips and you and some others. But are you doing this just out of the kindness of your heart and found two other people that are willing to do it with you?
Well, we started it, and we knew that we wanted to have advertisement on there for other, for the vendors, for the photographers. We wanted it to be, and that's what you see on the sidebar, where you see Kathleen Bowie and Melissa Phillips and myself. I mean, I threw myself in there just to fill the space, but all of those are all clickable links to their site, and that is the way that we're going to advertise it. And we also have a place where it says find vendors, or so you can click on that and you'll be able to go and find someone who specializes in newborn photography, or find someone who specializes in making hats, or find someone who specializes in making backdrops for newborn photography. So we are going to be having the advertisement, but as of right now, all of the advertisement on that sidebar is all free. And the reason we have done that is because we want people to see the feedback and what they're going to get from it. You know,
Hmm.
because we promote this site like crazy. I mean, and it's just starting. It's only been up and running for about a month and a half now, and it's already blown up. I mean, we're almost at 13,000 fans, or not
Wow.
13, 1,300 fans on Facebook alone. So that's 1,300 people looking at the site, and we get feedback all the time from the site and just seeing what people are liking and what they're commenting on. And it's just amazing to see how many people actually do click and view the site. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of people that view the site each week, and we want it to grow and be stronger and have hundreds and thousands of people view it each day. And we're starting the advertisement where there will be fees and stuff like that in January. But right now, we're running the advertisement bar for free because we're still trying to figure out how we're going to do the find vendors and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
So anyone who submits their banner or their logo, we recommend banners because banners actually will stand out more and you'll get noticed more. And you know, rather than just having your logo up there, which most of them have. But we like the banners where there's pictures and it's more visible and more, it's bigger. And that's what we tell people to send us is their banner. And I mean, when you click on a feature as well, their company is linked to every single picture. So if, say, I was featured on there, every single picture, if someone was to click on that picture, it's going to go back to my site. And anytime that they hover over my name or over anything that has to do with me, it's going to go back to my site. So people who view this are going to know that you did that work.
Yeah.
And
I,
will like you on Facebook and they'll potentially come to you and stuff. And we want to have it all over the United States. You know, we want to have it everywhere. I mean, we even featured two photographers who live in Australia. And I mean, we want it to be everywhere. We want people to come on here and be able to find, you know, say a couple's moving to Ohio and they just got pregnant and they want to do maternity photos, but they don't have enough time to do it here in Florida. They're going to have to do it in Ohio. You know, we want them to be able to click and find someone in Ohio that they can trust and love just as much as they love their photographer here in Florida. You know, and stuff like that happens all the time. And having that resource to be able to know that you're going to find someone and it's going to be an amazing work, it's just really nice to be able to give that to people.
yeah. And I noticed a couple of things, and a couple of things I messed people up by saying click on that link. Apparently, my link, not yours, mine link, takes you out of the live chat into the whatever that ad is. So I need to look into how to make it open another window because I noticed when I clicked on the baby here, it opened Kathleen's site in another window, which is
Yes.
good. And then the other thing I like about yours because you have more control over the style and everything and what's going in there. When you look at mine, of course, I'm running Google ads, and what I see as an ad may be different than what somebody else saw. Apparently, Andy saw some kind of weird kind of I don't know, some kind of something about politics. I don't know. And I think Google somehow, I think Google tracks us everywhere we go on the internet. And they probably have looked at what you've looked at and said, okay, here's the ad that you may like. Um,
Right.
and do some of that. So hopefully, I think I get to choose, hey, I don't want to see any of this type, because I don't, like you, I still want this to be somewhat family friendly here. And I don't want, the wrong ads showing up on my site. But yeah, that's it's nice the way you have it laid out. I like that.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
I clicked on the submit session link here too.
Hmm.
That's very nice, very helpful, and that's one of the things that drew me to you when I, was first looking for guests, which also reminds me of a listener question I had. But what drew me to you from the very beginning is how willing you are and how eager you are to help other photographers. And I had a question recently from a listener that said, how do I choose my guests? And there's several things. One is I'm looking on Facebook, I look on Google Plus, I look on some other areas that I go into, and if you saw my spreadsheet, I have a long spreadsheet of photographers I want to contact and get on the show. And it's probably 50, 60 people long. And I like it when they have a website like yours. And I like it when they are someone who either has a little bit different creative style or is, and like you also, very eager and wanting to help other people. So often I contact people, and then sometimes you don't hear back from them, sometimes you do. I know I've gotten several referrals where people said, "Oh, this person would be great on your show. They would love to be there." Send them a message, and I actually send them a message with that message from that person attached, and you never hear back from that person, or do hear back from that person. I think what happens with some people is they get very busy. They probably get a lot of submissions. There's some very popular photographers I'm trying to get them to come on the show, and they probably get tons of emails, and it's hard to get through. So the other thing is, I would tell people, if I haven't contacted you, it doesn't mean that you're not on the list. But on the other hand, somebody also asked about whether I only have pros on the show, and absolutely not. This jpeg2RAW, and whether this is right or wrong, when I started it, my thought was JPEG is the beginner, RAW is the professional. Now, what we've learned over time is that there's plenty of professionals who shoot JPEG also. So that's not necessarily the same thing, but I looked at it as the journey of a photographer from the beginning to the end, or beginning to whatever, not the end. So I will have hobbyist photographers on here too. Heck, from that standpoint, Tim and I are both hobbyist photographers. We're not professionals, and I don't want to say that every show to beat people over the head with it, but we're not professionals. But my feeling is that with somebody like Ashlee, who is a professional, and professional is a word in photography that is hard to define exactly. But I would say, at a minimum, if you're making your living from photography, you're a professional.
Yes.
And I think people would debate as you come down from that. You don't necessarily have to be making a full-time living to be considered a professional. But where that line draws, I don't really care about that line. That's you guys can debate that all you want. I find people I want to talk to and would like to have on a show, and that's who I pick. And so that's, if it.
I mean, you also have to have that personality and stuff, like I kind of understand where you came from, where you asked me, because I love to talk. I mean, we could talk for hours. I mean, when we first did our first interview and you tested me out, I mean, we almost talked for 2 hours. And you were like, okay, we got to stop talking, And I mean, you just have to have that personality to talk and to be open and to share, because people are going to ask questions. And whether you're comfortable in answering that question or not, I mean, you have to know. You have to be confident in yourself to be able to answer questions for other photographers. And if you don't have that personality, then maybe you shouldn't be on a talk show about photography.
Yeah, and I think that I remember that conversation, and I had told you, it's going to take 5-10 minutes. It won't take long. And I looked down at the clock, and it was like, holy crap, we've been talking for over an hour. I got to wrap this up, not because of me, but I don't want to abuse the guests. And I know, like in the case of you got so much going on that getting your time is difficult, and your time is precious. So I want to make good use of it. But you're right in that we need somebody who wants to talk. You've been doing a lot of great talking tonight. But my fear is if I get a guest on and I ask them a question, their answer is, yep. Like, okay, so we're going to have a whole show of, yep. And that's not going to be very entertaining. And
I'm sure we wouldn't have that many viewers.
So someone who wants to interact. But I would say, if you're interested in coming on and I haven't contacted you, contact me. There's nothing wrong with that. We have had a number of baby photographers on recently, and I'm not done with that. I'll have more baby photographers on in the future, but I'd like to have some different ones. So, eventually we'll have landscape, we'll have different types of photographers on over time. But But okay, I just wanted to answer that listener's question. He had a question on how I was choosing the guest. Um, so hopefully that answered the question. So now, what else you been doing besides just adoring? You done any more weddings?
Yeah, well, actually, 11/11 just went by.
Yeah.
And I just want to say something. Here in Fort Myers, Florida, there is 368 people scheduled at the courthouse. You know, when you go and you register for your license and stuff to get married, they had 368 people scheduled to get married on 11/11/11.
That's crazy.
That is freaking insane. And I got double booked on 11/11/11. So I worked a morning wedding as well as a late wedding.
You had wait. You had two weddings in one day.
Yeah.
Holy crap! So how I gotta
How did
imagine
that
a
happen?
I gotta well no no
I
no
don't
I
know,
gotta
but
imagine
it happened.
I gotta imagine a wedding is 5 hours or something that you're or more that you're spending at it.
Well, thankfully, they were both pretty small weddings. I mean, they weren't a huge deal wedding, but I mean, they were back to back. I mean, you woke up that morning, we went to downtown Fort Myers for one, left there, had about an hour in between, then went down to Naples Beach and did the other one and got home pretty late. I mean, I just remember being in the car and I was delirious. Like, I was screaming, I was singing songs. Like, I mean, the interns and all of them were just like, are you okay?
Have you lost
And
it?
I'm like, I'm great. I'm great. I'm just delirious. This has been a really long day. But I am so thankful for the interns because both of the weddings that were booked that day were because of them. It wasn't because of me, it was because of them. They worked their butts off and got those weddings and were like, let's do it. We can do it. And it was amazing. It was so much fun, but I will never, ever do two weddings in one day again.
I would think two weddings in one weekend would be crazy, and you went a step beyond that and did them both in one day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But see, like, you hear so many stories about, like, I've been looking at people, other photographers, and, like, what they had on 11/11/11, and I had it pretty easy. I had it pretty easy. Like, some photographers had one wedding, but it was like a 9-hour, 12-hour day for them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I did pretty good. Like, I at least had fun with it. Like, I had a lot of fun going back and forth, back and forth.
Of course, you were
But
delirious afterwards.
yeah, of course. But, you know, my bed was sounding really, really nice at the end of the day, basically.
I bet it was.
So,
And I think, you know, when we go to end this, we're going to hang out and chat a little bit longer if you have time.
yeah,
And
definitely.
there may be some people who have some specific questions about weddings and stuff.
Yeah.
And so maybe we can answer some of those. But, you know, one of the questions I've seen recently, so, you know, sometimes you deal with you may not have had this, but maybe you can give some advice on it. Sometimes you have a bride or a groom, but let's say a bride who is not very helpful toward the photographers. Wait until the last minute to give the photographer any instructions that, you know, I got to imagine they're going through a lot trying to get ready for the wedding. But, you know, a big part of that is the photographer. You know, and the photographer
Mhm.
needs to know some minimal stuff like where is it going to be held, what time, what day. Well, they might know the day, but maybe they don't. The day, what time, and you know, I imagine there's other things. What
I mean, those are pretty crucial things that you have to know. And I know some people who have been going through this, and it's horrible to hear that they're actually going through that. But what I have learned over the years of experience is that it's really all about you. If you are not taking the initiative to get that information, like, I mean, I would go to their house, knock on their door, and get that information from them if I had to. Because otherwise, it's not they're not going to blame it on themselves. They're never going to blame it on themselves, because to them it's like, well, what could have our photographer done better,
Yeah.
or what could she have done more, so for me, I actually don't sign a contract with any client unless they have all of the information that I need.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that information you would get up front before you
Yes,
signed the contract.
yes,
That's a good
because
idea.
most of the time they already know where they're going to get married, or when their date is.
Yeah.
And actually, with my photography group, what we do is we actually build the schedule with the bride and the groom, or with the bride and the bride's mom, whoever's available. We actually make the schedule. We do not let them do it on their own. And that is something that some people may feel like that's going over the top. Like, do you honestly really need to do that? But I have learned that if I make this schedule with them, like sit down, make a rough copy, and kind of have an idea and everything planned out, and I already know, and I can give that information to my team, it goes so much better. But you have to make sure that everyone is on that same page, because if there's one person on that day that's not on the same page as you, it's just going to get crazy. It's going to get hectic, and time is very, very important on a wedding. It's
Have,
probably the most important thing is time,
have
because you
you?
don't have a lot of time to capture what you would like to capture.
Right, right.
And you have to use every single minute to the last minute. I mean, if you're doing pictures after the ceremony of the bride and the groom and you finish early, this has happened a couple times to me where we finished early. We did all of the pictures that we set out to do. We don't tell them we finished early, let's head back.
Yeah.
We say, okay, well, we have a couple more minutes left. Let's go try and do a couple more photos. I mean, we never tell the client that we finished early.
Yeah.
Unless it's a June or July or an August wedding here in Florida,
And
you will
it's
never see us go inside early. We
yeah.
will be outside until that last very minute, because, I mean, they will appreciate that in the end. They will say, well, our photographers kept us out there for a long time, but we got all of the pictures that we could have wanted and more.
So have you ever walked away from a bride who wasn't organized enough on the front end? Like, let's say you're trying to get all the information on the front end before you sign a contract and you just can't nail it down with the bride. Have you ever walked away?
I never walked away, but what I have done is, if I have a consultation with the bride and they tell me, well, we don't really know that, and we kind of don't really know that, if it's the information that's important, I mean, like knowing their colors and knowing like what style gown she has, and like, I mean, like what they have for their centerpieces, and like how many people are in their bridal party, I don't find that important information. The important information that you need to have up front right away is the location, the times that they would like for it to start and end, because then in your second consultation that you have with them, you should be building a schedule with them. You should be building that schedule with them so everyone is on the same page. And also, you need to know who is a secondary contact. So if you cannot get a hold of the bride or the groom, you need a secondary contact that will know the information that you need to know. And if I don't have that information up front, I will not sign the contract with them. I will schedule in a week or two to meet back with them and to have another consultation. And if they have the information, we'll sign the contract then.
Okay. Okay.
And that's basically just to ensure that the day is going to go well, because why would you sign a contract with someone that has no idea when they're getting married
Yeah.
or where they're getting married?
Have you always, it sounds like you're very in charge of you're, at least you're part of it. You're very in charge of the wedding. Have you
I
always,
mean,
what's that?
I mean, people say that a lot. They're like, you just seem like you just do the whole wedding. Like, you're not just the photographer, you're the wedding planner. And to me, a lot of weddings now do not hire a wedding planner. I mean, the bride is the wedding planner.
Right.
And maybe I should be charging more if I'm doing that, but honestly, it's helping me. It's helping me in the end, and it's not going to have me as stressed out about that wedding or as stressed out the day that it's happening. And the day will just go so much smoother, and I could be that positive light to them on their day and not come walking in and being like, what's going on? Where am I supposed to be? What am I supposed to be doing? What are you supposed to be doing? I should already know that.
Yeah, and I meant that in a positive way if it didn't come out that way. But my question with that was because you seem so in charge and so confident of yourself, and you're so knowledgeable what you're doing. Have you always felt that way from the the early days, when you first started shooting weddings, or is this something that just grown?
My first wedding, the photographer that I mentored under was actually very much how I run my business now. He actually would make the schedule, would email it to the wedding planner, and the wedding planner would actually confirm the schedule with them and would be like, no, we need to switch this around and this around and this around. And he would have no problem with that at all. Or he would send it to the DJ, and the DJ would be like, oh, this sounds great or whatever, but he would make sure that everyone was on the same page. And I have learned that that is like the best way to go about it, because I've heard so many horror stories of it not going well, not being able to capture as much as they wanted to capture. I mean, clients coming and saying that they're upset because this wasn't captured and this wasn't captured, but they remember that moment and they don't have a picture to remember it. I just have learned that you kind of have to be forceful in that and kind of take charge in that, because it's just going to benefit you and it's going to benefit your company, and they're going to really appreciate that. I mean, your client is not going to be like, whoa, this lady is out of control, she's crazy. Like, they're going to sit here and be like, wow, I am so thankful you were here to put this schedule together, because I have no idea. Most of the time, the bride has no idea what a good schedule would be. They have no idea.
Right. So you're saying that part of what you do when you take in charge is to make sure that you get those shots where the bride says, I remember this happening, I remember that happening. And you want to make sure you're able to get those. Now, what have you ever had a spot where, like, you after the fact, you go back and you look, oh, crap, we did not get this, or whatever we got is not usable?
There has been times when they do the send-off. This is the thing that I think all photographers kind of struggle with, because it happens so fast. I mean, everything else happens fast, but you can kind of fix it. Like anything in a ceremony, I mean, like any photographs you take during the ceremony, you're preparing your camera for that ultimate picture of them kissing after they're married. You know what I mean? So if you're a wedding photographer, you should be looking at your pictures throughout that ceremony and being like, okay, this is too bright, this is too dark, I need to change this, I need to make this better. So when that moment comes that you want to take it, you have your camera set and you're going to be able to capture that picture like boom, 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 and right then and there. But like when you're doing the send-off, you don't really have that much time, especially if it's at night. You don't have that much time to try and test it out and make sure it works, or even if you do test it out, you're not compensating for her white dress. You're not compensating for his black or really dark tux if he's wearing one. I mean, you're not compensating for that at all. Or if they have fireworks like the sparklers, you're not compensating for that when you're testing it. So you kind of have to just like cross your fingers and hope and pray to God that it comes out, and just kind of like go with it. And there's been times where I take that picture and it's blurry. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So what am I going to do? This is like the only picture that I took of that, and...
So So what do you do? I mean,
I
what
send
happens with
it
the?
to them. I send it to them, and we'll see. When I do that, I take more than one. I
Yeah.
take maybe probably around 3 or 4 of those pictures because I will have my camera set so where I can go like at a fast shutter,
Right.
try and capture as much as I can. And then I also will have my SB flash on and stuff. And most of the time, I will get one good picture, one, but it may not be the best one.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, they're gonna look at the rest of the pictures and they'll be like, wow, there's so many other pictures to choose from that we love. Like, that picture's good and it will work, you know?
So how
And
how
if you're
many? There's usually you and how many interns on one wedding?
There's 4 of us total, including myself. I have a second shooter and then 2 interns always.
What are the two
But
interns doing?
the interns, during that time, that particular time, they're actually helping with getting people to line up. That's something that we do because I want
Okay.
to make sure that everyone's lined up evenly and accordingly to when they're going to come out and stuff. And they also will hand out like whatever's happening, if it's sparklers or bubbles, and they'll
Yeah.
also do the lighting of the sparklers and stuff because they know when to do it.
Yeah.
You know, they've been through that, and rather than having someone who has no idea what they're doing, it also works out better that they do it. And then my second shooter, she
So
actually
hold
stands by the
hold on.
car and she'll take pictures as I'm coming out.
I have a non-photography question.
Okay.
So it's been a long time since I've been married, or had a wedding. I'm married. It's been a long time since I got married. Um, Sparklers. So you're lined up with people on either side holding sparklers, and the bride is going to run through the middle of that in her dress. Does the dress get damaged?
No, the dress doesn't get damaged. What they do is the sparklers are actually made for this. They're not
Okay.
like your typical sparklers that you buy at a fireworks store or a
Oh, okay.
fireworks
Okay.
stand. They're actually sparklers that you have to order online. They're super, super long. I mean, these fireworks I think are like the sparklers, the smallest they come in is a 22 inch.
I was going to ask that too because sparklers that I have with the kids, one it's hurting your hand as the things are falling on it, and two, it doesn't last that long at all. So I can think
No.
by the time you've lit the last one in a row, the first guy in a row is already out.
Right.
So
Yeah.
okay,
The smallest that you can buy these, I think, are at 22 inches, and the biggest you can buy is 36 inches, which is insane. But
okay,
they're
so
actually, they don't go as fast. They actually, like, the sparkler is more of like a sparkler on top of a cake, if you've ever had those, where
yeah,
it's very slow. So it's actually a lot better. I mean, they're designed for this, and they don't hold them straight out. They actually hold them at an upward angle, almost like if you were doing like, the knives or the guns or something like
mm-hmm,
that. That's
yeah,
kind of like where they hold it and they create like a tent and they just run through it. And the ashes are all biodegradable, so they don't fall on them. They actually like disappear before they even get in the air,
okay,
basically. So it's actually very, very safe and very fun. I mean, there's so much fun.
yeah.
They just like you. It's funny watching the bride and the groom run through them because they just light up. They just light up.
Yeah.
And another thing
Do you have any
is like,
photos on your site with somebody doing that?
no, but I do on my Facebook page. On my actual Facebook page, there is one. I don't think I have one, or maybe I do, but it might be further back on the weddings. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
I don't know if you want me to go to your Facebook page live.
yeah, you can. I don't mind.
And
And it'll be underneath the profile pictures. The profile pictures, I believe there's one that's in a black and white. But I wanted to share, there is one thing that we do when we're doing the send off, and this has been super, super helpful. So if there's any photographers out there that do wedding photography, we do the send off and we actually make them stop halfway now, and we make them do either a kiss or a dip or something. And I will literally stop with my camera because sometimes they'll forget. So I'll stop halfway and sometimes they'll run into me. But then I'll be like, okay, give each other a kiss real quick. Like, do it real quick. Oh, not my personal page, the
Oh,
photography page.
yeah, that's what I thought you were saying. I was looking for it here, and I was like, you do like to make a lot of faces for the camera.
Oh, yeah. I love to be on camera.
Great.
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, and it's too bad your video's not working tonight.
Oh, that's a shame. It's okay. But yeah,
I think I'm
that's like
slowly.
another fun thing that we do, and we make sure that we have them do, because even if I don't get that running through picture, I know I'm definitely going to get that picture of them kissing or dipping, and that's normally the one that they love anyways. So
So I think this is it, the black and white one that's coming up.
let's see. Somebody should play some Jeopardy music as we wait.
I wonder why it takes so long for you to see it, because it's
Oh, it's I don't know.
Steven in chat sees it,
Oh,
and you're
I'm
still
jealous.
not
It
seeing
must
it.
be my internet. It has to be my internet. Yep, that's it. That's one of them.
Okay.
See how we made them stop and kiss?
Yeah, that's a great idea to get them to stop there and kiss
Yeah.
to give you a second to catch up.
Yeah, see, and that's when you're going to capture that moment the best compared to them like running through like crazy. And they may have like one of those weird like running faces, where their like mouth is open and their eyes are like cross-eyed. I mean,
Or when if you ever seen anything in slow motion, which is basically what a camera is going to do, is stop, freeze it, and in frame, is your face kind of goes up and down, and it can really make you look deformed
yeah.
with that. And if you're running through it, you can catch them in that look.
Yeah. Well, that's what's great about the flash. The SB flash actually prevents that and stuff. And I agree. I love that Steven said this picture looks amazing in black and white. And I agree. I actually sent them the black and white, and I also sent them the regular like in color picture, and
Yeah.
they like loved the black and white. They were like, everyone just looks so much better in black and white. And I was like, I agree.
And I say this every show, but maybe we have somebody new tonight. Is the image you're just seeing in chat don't do justice to the real image. So I would advise going out to Ashlee's Facebook page, or earlier we're showing her regular page. Go in there and taking a look at the photos, because they're far better than what you're even seeing on here. Even though this is still good, it's even better in real life on the show than you see it here.
Thank you.
But along those lines, where I was heading with that was, so maybe this hasn't happened to you, but maybe of photographers it has, and have some advice for them.
Mm-hmm.
If I would imagine, if you shoot enough weddings, or maybe if you're a beginner at shooting weddings, you're going to have times when you just don't have that shot, and the bride is just going to be hysterical.
Right.
And maybe even go as far as threatening a lawsuit, threatening to sue you. Now, it's funny, you hear a lot of people say, I'm going to get my attorney to come after you. And I don't know about, maybe you do, but in my life, I've never had an attorney. So it's not like I have this dude who's just sitting there waiting, and as soon as I call him, he's going to go after whoever I tell him.
Yeah.
Nobody has most people, unless you're just really rich, don't have
Right.
a
I mean, and
a
you
lawyer on
never
retainer.
know. Like I do, living in the area that I live in, I mean, we have a very, very ritzy area.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that can happen. That can happen so quickly down here because, I mean, people don't mess around with pictures. I mean, if they're going to hire you, they have to know the quality of your work. And especially if it's your first wedding, you have to let them know that you're going to do your best. And if they're unsatisfied with the pictures, then maybe they should have went with somebody who has more experience.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's their own fault for choosing someone who's only done 1 or 2 weddings. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's something, I don't know how you would say that to them without offending them. But
Yeah.
I guess that's like also when you're choosing, I don't think anybody should do a wedding on their own. I feel like they should always have somebody else that's more experienced than them. Never have somebody who is on the same page with you. You know what I mean?
Right,
because with me, my second shooter came to me right out of school. And she's basically with me because she wants to learn the business of weddings. And she knows that I have done more weddings than she has. And she wants to learn how I run it, how I work with my clients, how I work through those situations and stuff. And with me, I always communicate with the bride and the groom. And if they came to me and they said, Ashlee, we're really upset and we're really frustrated that you did not get this picture. And I would be extremely hurtful because that's all that I want to do for them is capture those moments. And just hearing that I did not do that, it would be extremely hurtful to me. But I would have to write to them and either give them something in return, to make up for that loss, or I would have to give them a full refund and let them keep their pictures. You know what I mean? Like,
So,
I would never not give them their images because that's their wedding. That's the
okay.
only pictures they have. And if they were severely upset, I would give them a refund, but maybe keep their deposit. Be like, your deposit was signing with the contract and stuff, and I would probably give them a refund of everything but their deposit and stuff, and just tell them that the deposit was used for, the manufacturing of their pictures, whether they be prints or on CDs or, anything like that. But I would also offer to them if there's a way that I could fix the photos through editing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, that's always an option too. If they don't like the pictures because of it being edited a wrong way, you can always correct that. I mean, you can always change that and fix that. And I recommend that you do that. Otherwise, you're going to lose that client and you'll lose all the referrals that they have with that,
True.
But
If you have somebody who's going as far as threatening a lawsuit on you, I mean, do you have any kind of business insurance or anything like that to protect yourself? Or would you recommend
well,
somebody have that?
I mean, as far as in like insurance, like as with like the client and stuff, all I have is like the license agreements and I have the contracts and everything states in there. And I do have parts in my agreements where it talks about lawsuits and if it ever got to that. And I do share with my clients on the first consultation that whole agreement. We go
Okay.
through it together and I tell them if there was ever any, dissatisfaction with the photographs, they're always able to be fixed or worked through prior to going to court.
Mhm.
That court would always be a last option for anyone. And most of them agree with me. But if you have a client that like just doesn't care, they're just so angry and so upset that they want to like just take you to court right away, what I would do is I would probably go to court with them, but I would justify that everything was talked about through the consultations, and I would also just try and back myself up through my agreements and my contracts. If I'm a photographer and I don't have a contract or an agreement with them, you're
Mhm.
basically screwed.
Yeah.
Like, you need
Well,
to write up an agreement and a contract ASAP.
yeah,
And
I don't want to spend too much. We're getting close to the end here. I don't want to spend too much time on the negative, and we'll hold out and chat and maybe answer some questions because I probably didn't ask everything somebody wanted. But before we end it, I wanted to talk about some of these. The
oh, the
the
trash, the
trash.
dress.
So this may be. I'm a little bit older than you actually. This may have been something that is more recent, or just something I was never exposed to. But
Probably
is
something you were never exposed to.
yeah, because I never wore a wedding dress.
Yeah.
But
I
is
mean, okay, so let me
is
share a little bit about trash the dress.
Yeah, is this like you getting divorced? So it's like I want to
No.
get rid of everything
No,
that
no, no, no,
reminds me of
no.
that
Okay,
bum.
basically after a wedding, there are two options that a bride could do.
Okay.
Okay, option one, being saving actually there's 3 options. Let me correct myself. There's
Save the
3.
dress for your daughter or your...
Save the dress for your daughter or for your niece or something like that.
Yeah.
You can save your dress, keep it, have it as a memento, all of that jazz. 2 is to do another photo shoot, make it more elegant, whimsical, maybe capture some photos that you were not able to capture the day of your wedding because it was so crazy and hectic, and do another fun bridal shoot. You know, a lot of photographers do that. They'll do the bridal shoots, and a lot of photographers will, if they're a starting photographer, will do it for free because they're trying to get into weddings. And that's another good tip for starting photographers, is doing bridal shoots, contacting people who have already been married and having them get back in that dress because they're itching. They're literally itching themselves to get back in that dress, to put it on again because they spent so much money on it.
Yeah, let's get another use out of it. Yeah.
Another shoot out of it. Or there's the option of trashing the dress. And people who do this are more edgy. They don't really care about the dress. Again, they, you know, see the dress as like a one-time use, or maybe they haven't used the dress for 5 years. Maybe they kept it, they had kids, the kids didn't want it, you know, it's just kind of sitting there. So another thing is to do a photo shoot and to just trash the dress. And it's very, very popular. I mean, there has been some trash the dress shoots that I have seen that have been with like this one with water.
Mm-hmm.
Or people have done it with actual fire, like lighting up the dress.
I was just thinking about that.
Yeah. People do that. It's crazy to see these shoots. I mean, people do like in mud. I even saw one that was actually really, really cool where the mom had kids and then she got back in her dress and she had the kids throw paint on her while she was in her dress. And they came and put like handprints all over her and did like a photo shoot with the kids and herself and made it a lot of fun and, you know, just kind of incorporated the dress again and stuff. So it's actually a really popular thing these days. And actually a lot of brides want to do it, but they're scared to do it. So it normally doesn't happen until after 3 to 5 years after they've been married.
Well, and Andy out in chat says it may not be limited to just the ladies. Some guy made an entire book out of doing weird things with his ex-wife's wedding dress.
Oh, see? Yeah, and some people will do that. I've even heard of
I wonder how he got custody of the dress.
I don't know.
I guess maybe she didn't care. She was leaving that guy.
Or maybe he bought the dress and was like, I want everything that I bought. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? Okay. Well, that's very interesting. I've seen these shots before of trash to dress. And I never really looked into it. And I guess I just assumed it's one of those things like I'm getting rid of everything that had to do with that bum. And, you know, the dress is the last thing.
No. The people are still married.
Okay.
And they're still together and still very, very happy. But trash the dress is just a way to get back in the dress, do some pictures. I mean, they're more of an edgy style of photography. They're not meant to be like super pretty and whimsical. Like they're supposed to be edgy and fun and creative, and I love them. I don't know if I necessarily would do it in my wedding dress, but you never know. You never know. In 5 years, I may be like, let's do it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of, you know, like my wife, she kept the dress. And I don't know if in the back of her mind, we have 2 boys. So maybe at the time, you know, obviously we didn't have, well, not obviously, but we didn't have kids when we got married. So she may have been thinking, if I have a daughter, I want to give it off to them. If I have sons, maybe the daughter-in-law would want it.
Yeah.
People's taste is so much different. It's, you know, there's a big likelihood they won't want your dress.
Right.
I guess you can alter it to make some changes to it.
I mean, I've seen a lot of people where they'll take like the beading work and will have it incorporated in their dress, or they'll take like the lace and incorporate it. But I mean, yes, trash the dress is not for everyone. Not everyone is going to want to be a part of it and stuff. But I mean, when you do have a client that wants to be a part of it, it's just so much fun.
Yeah.
It's just a blast.
And where I was going is my wife, I know exactly where that dress is, and she has it underneath the bed and is protected and doesn't want anybody coming, doesn't want anybody touching it. The likelihood of that dress ever being used for anything ever again is slim, I think.
What, her dress?
Yeah. I mean, maybe like you said that one of my sons, if they when they get married, that one of their wives will want to use it.
Honestly, probably not. If
Yeah.
you have all boys, like, no. They're probably the person that they are gonna marry, if anything, they would want to wear their mother's gown.
Exactly.
They're not gonna want to wear their, future husband's mother's gown, or mother-in-law's gown. Like, that would just be weird.
Yeah. Well, Ashley, I really appreciate you coming out again. It's been a lot of fun talking to you, and I know your schedule is very, very busy, but at some time in the future, we'd love to have you come back on. And before you leave, I always say I'm going to end the live show and we're going to talk to chat, but we always get such good information. Have such good interaction with chat after the show that I'm going to make it part of the show. So we're just going to transition now and see if Chad has any questions that we missed during the show that they would like to ask you, or if you have any for me, that's fine too. But I imagine most of them are going to be for Ashley. If you have any for Ashley before we end the show, now's the time to ask them. Let us know. I know there's some few people out there who may have shot weddings before.
Yes.
And maybe have some specific questions that I didn't ask. Feel free to ask them.
Or even if you want me to elaborate more on a question, like maybe you missed it or something.
And one of the questions is, how long have you been shooting?
We're going on 7 years now.
7 years.
Yeah.
And you are a full-time pro. And I kind of talked about pro versus not pro. I'm not going to go into that again. You are a full-time pro, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Full time.
Full time.
Besides, I do just the door now as well. So I mean, yeah.
Well, I think that you one good thing is to always look at different revenue streams. You got the weddings, you got the trash the dress. Maybe at some point you'll do paid workshops. That kind of stuff.
Well, that's also, we talked about that last time I was on. I was doing the workshops and stuff as well.
That's true, right?
And I still do that. But it's it's like died down a little bit because of all of the people are like booking shoots now and stuff, and they're just getting prepared for the holidays and stuff. But we plan on starting the workshops back up again next year, probably in February and stuff. So if anybody's interested in the workshops, I mean, they're so much fun. Like, we love the people that are a part of it are so awesome. They love to like travel and do new fun things, and we have such an amazing we have lots of models that come out and will model for us and stuff, and it's just a lot of fun. Like, we like to get together, and there's huge specials going on for the workshops right now too, where they have been like cut in half, and it's just really awesome. And we also do gatherings. So if like workshops are not, like, you can't really afford to do the workshops and stuff, we also do the gatherings that are free. And we do those once a month. And the gatherings will be once a month on a certain topic. Actually, this one's coming up pretty soon. It's going to be on, it's going to be on singer portraits, because we had so many people ask about singer portraits and good places to go. So we're going to do a whole session about singer portraits, and we're going to go downtown and show people the area of downtown Fort Myers, and then also show them areas outside of downtown that are walking distance, where you don't just have to stay downtown, that you could walk just a little bit further and capture something that's totally different than downtown. And And then we also, next month, the workshop is going to be a bridal workshop where you're going to learn about how to do the bridal shoots, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So,
Yeah, and there's another question out there. I was wondering if not Morgan, Megan, if Megan's still out there. If you're still out there, let me know. And so the next question is, what would you do in a wedding if the lighting was really bad, especially outdoors, or churches that didn't allow flash? Ooh, so
um,
hold on a second. There's churches that during a wedding will not allow flash.
yeah, I see. That's funny
What
that
is
you
it gonna?
asked that,
Why
because I
would
actually had that happen to me recently,
can you
where
before you get into that? Why would they not allow flash? Is it going to damage something
no, I mean they just think it's a distraction.
from the wedding?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Go ahead and answer
I
it.
mean, and it's not really their decision. I mean, if the client wants to have the flash on, I mean,
Yeah,
it's not really their decision. But I mean, I guess, I mean, music is worse than a flash, honestly.
yeah.
People will, but I mean, okay, anyways, to answer that question, I have had that happen to me where they do not allow a flash. And what I did in this particular situation is I actually went to the bride. I went to the bride and I said, look, I just spoke with your pastor and he saw that I have this huge flash on my camera and he asked me if I was going to use it. And they said, he said I couldn't use it. And that what they said is, okay, we'll go talk to the groom. So I went to the groom, I said the same thing, and the groom actually went up to the pastor and said, we have hired her based on what she has captured at previous weddings. And for her to capture that moment for us, she has to use that flash. And then the pastor was very, very argumentative in saying that it wasn't allowed, that it was a church rule, a church policy. And but eventually the pastor realized that it's not his day and that it was their day,
Yeah.
and he let me use my flash only during a certain time. I was not allowed to use my flash in the beginning, and I was not allowed to use my flash in the during the actual ceremony, but I was allowed to use it towards the end. And so what I had happen is I had my second shooter put her flash on, and I said, okay, you're in charge of just getting wide shots of this area so we can have these wide shots amazing. And what I'll do with my camera, because I have a D700, I was able to manipulate the light and control the light a lot better than she could. So I just got up closer and tried my best to do what I could. And the clients knew ahead of time that I was going to have trouble with the lighting and stuff because the church was not allowing me to have my flash and stuff. So they were they understood why. And but I was able to capture an amazing picture of them walking out, and I was able to capture amazing pictures of them kissing, which are like the number one things that they
Right.
want
Now,
during a ceremony.
what I know the 700 is really good at high ISOs,
Yeah.
but what lens are you typically using? Are you using one where you can, open it pretty up, open it up pretty
Yeah.
much?
Yeah. Well, I do have the 50 millimeter 1.4,
Okay.
and I normally don't use that though during a ceremony. What I normally will use is my 55 to 300 zoom,
Oh wow.
but that one
Okay.
does not allow me to control as well. So I do find myself switching back and forth between the 50 and the zoom that I normally use.
You know
But
what?
I am gonna have to invest in a better lens that will do that, because that's ultimately like what you would need for that situation. It's
You,
just a really great lens that will allow you to manipulate the light.
you know what else you need? You need another D700, so you can have one on one shoulder with one lens and one on the other shoulder with another lens, and then you can flip back and forth. There you go.
Yeah.
So can continue in with those
Oh,
questions.
yeah. And so then, especially with outdoors, I mean, this is something that I have taught my interns for so long now, is about lighting outside. I mean, because it's so, so hard, especially with them where they don't have such of a great camera as I do, because most of them shoot with like either the 5100 or the 3100, and those are not like the best cameras to probably shooting outside weddings, but I have taught them of, you know, when they're shooting a wedding to shoot at the angles that they're going to be able to capture the best in. If they know that they're not going to be able to capture that picture well with their camera, then don't shoot it. Don't try. Don't waste your time on that picture and trying to capture that picture. Let me capture that picture, you know?
Right.
Or try at a different angle. Try it somewhere else. Because sometimes even if you move the client, like when you're doing pictures of like maybe the couples together outside, I have found that if someone would have just moved the client a step forward or a step back or a step to the right or a step to the left, that picture would have been amazing. And see, with me, I always take the picture, I look at it, if I feel like it's too dark or too bright, I'll have them move. I'll be like, okay, that picture came out good, but let's try another one.
Yeah.
Step to the left a little, or step to the right, or step back a little for a different type. You know what I mean?
Because you got to do it. You got to do it then. Once you leave, it's over.
Right. You have to do it then. With weddings, you don't get that second chance. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's that one chance, unless it's with the bride, you know, because I know a lot of times what happens is you do not have much time before a wedding to capture pictures. You maybe have like an hour because the bride takes so long to get ready. And so doing bridal shoots and stuff after that they got married is really helpful too, because you're going to have so much more time with them. And if they're like dissatisfied, that's another thing I would recommend to them, is doing like a bridal shoot after the wedding. Be like, well, maybe we can get together and do a bridal shoot. You could even have your husband now come and maybe get a little dressed up, and we can just try and take a couple more pictures for you. You know, like that would be something I would do just so I could satisfy my clients. Because that's number one. If I don't satisfy my client, then they're not going to refer me to anybody else. And then there goes part of my business.
Yeah. Melissa out in chat saying that she is hoping to upgrade it in a while to the D700. I would love that D700.
I think everyone would.
Yeah, you know.
And me, I'm all about that D3S. I'm like, yeah, give me that D3S.
Well, I tell you, the reason I would love the D3S, but I think it's just, you know, what is it, like $5,300, $5,500, something like that.
Yeah.
It's, you know, I'm not a professional. I'm a hobbyist.
But it shoots video, Mike.
I know.
Video, and it's amazing. I want it. I need it.
Let's talk about how you had this woman trashing a dress. And my thought was that that's what they do after they say, I'm done with that bum. So if I come home with a $5,300 camera, that may be my wife in the water trashing her dress. And for the same reason I'm talking about. I can't buy a $5,300 camera unless I'm making money off of it.
Right.
But, you know, the other thing
love that picture that you're on, too, by the way. I love it, too. That's probably one of my favorites.
I love that one, too. The lighting is good. I do wish it showed the true quality here in chat, but looking at it on your page here, it just looks really good. But there's a lot of situations I get into, like the swimming meet over the weekend, where I have a D2X, so it's a generation older than yours. That just does not do good at the high ISOs. I mean, 800 is as far as I would really want to stretch out and get. Where I think my 800 ISO, your D700 is probably has less noise at ISO 6400 than mine does at 800.
Yes,
which
it does.
If I do the math,
I can tell you right now, just seeing the difference between my interns' cameras and mine, I mean, they get so pissed off. They get so pissed off. Like on one of the weddings that was at night on 11/11/11, we were at the venue and it was absolutely gorgeous outside on this patio. All of the trees were wrapped with lights around them. I mean, there was gorgeous little lanterns everywhere. And I said, okay, well, let's get a shot of the bride and the groom out here, you know, before everyone comes like bombarding out here and we can't do it. So I have the bride and the groom outside. She changed her outfit, made it a little bit more spicy and stuff, you know, wore a little shorter outfit and some taller heels. And so we have them out there, and she captured it, and she had to have her flash on because there was no way she was going to be able to capture that picture well enough without a flash. There's no way. And so she had her flash on. She took a picture of it, and she looked at it, and she's like, okay, I got it. And I was like, okay, well, let me take a picture real quick. And I had no flash. I just turned up my ISO a little bit and fixed my f-stop and took the picture. And I was like, okay, I got it too. And then later she looked at it and she goes, I hate you.
Yeah.
Because I was just able to capture like the light falling on their face. You were able to see their faces a lot better, and you're just able to see like what actually was there compared to her with her flash. And I mean, that's just something that if you're going to take this seriously, you need to have some serious gear. I mean, you don't want to show up to a wedding and someone have better gear than you.
You know, there's a saying that says it's not the gear that makes the pro, it's the pro. But there is something to the gear, like you're talking about, is, you know, if you go into an auto mechanics shop and they got, you know, crappy tools, you're probably going to wonder, you know, do I really want to go here? And you also hear the term, the right tool for the right job. And I think that's, you know, I was just thinking about what you're talking about it. If your ISO 6400 is better than my 800, but let's just an example say they're the same. That means that if you go 800 to 1600, that's one stop. 1600 to 3200, that's two stops. 3200 to 6400, that's three stops. So that camera has 3-stop advantage over mine, and just in terms of noise. That means you can have 3 times the shutter speed of me in the same situation. But on top of that, those newer ones are going to perform better at those high ISOs, not just in noise, but in color too. The color is going to be better. It retains that better. Yeah, it's all around just much better.
Yeah.
But Megan, I think she had some questions. I don't know if we got to her questions yet or anything. So
Megan, what was your question?
Megan, do you have any specific questions that you wanted us to cover that maybe we didn't cover? And early on in the show, she said something. And I wanted to try and get
She's probably typing away right now.
She probably is. It's too bad I couldn't easily drop other people into the conversation with us and, you know, have them come in and talk with us. But, you know, like I don't have any, other than Steven, I don't have anybody else's Skype information.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of set all that up beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can get Megan's, and then we'll probably need to head out because I've kept you for quite a while here, and I really appreciate you coming out.
It's not a problem. I love answering the questions and stuff.
Megan's her computer keeps kicking her off. I bet it's an Apple.
Shut up, Mike.
I knew you have an Apple. That's why I said that.
Megan says she doesn't remember posting any questions.
Okay, I just thought she had said she had some, and I was going to get to them, but that's okay. Okay, so hopefully we covered everybody's questions there, and if not, you know, Ashlee, I guess they can find you on Facebook on both your main page here, if I can get it, which is Ashlee Nicole Photography.
Yep.
Or they can find you on was it Just the Door?
Just the Door.
Just the Door. And so you have both Facebook and you have the actual websites too. So if you wanted to contact Ashlee, you know, go to either one of those places and contact Ashlee and ask her any more questions you might have.
Definitely. And you're welcome, Steven, and everybody else. I'm just really glad that I was able to answer some questions because I know at times it could be really hard, especially now when it's getting into the busy season of everything. But just know that they're hiring you for a reason. and you just do your best. And if you do your best and they complain, then I'm sorry, I did my best.
Yeah.
And they
And
have to know that.
next week is Thanksgiving. We're not going to have a show on the normal day, but I am going to have a special show with an in-studio guest. I don't know exactly what that time is going to be because it's going to be a little bit chaotic here. We're going to have a crazy number of people here, but I'm going to have an in-studio guest, and we'll probably do it live. But I doubt many people will come out because I don't know the time yet. But we'll have that. We'll release it out into, to iTunes or wherever else shortly after that. And then the week after, we're still we're I don't think I have anything to announce for the week after. But we do have another special guest coming up next month, and then another special guest coming in June, and then we're working on some other things. I'm not going to say who those are right now. And then eventually Ashley will come back.
Woohoo! You know it.
All right. So thank you everybody out in chat. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.